Okay, I might just go ahead and get started. So bonjour. Today I'm gonna go through a couple different things. I'll share a couple different topics today. So we'll see how those go. All right. Okay, here we go. All right, word of the day, as usual, is avril. Before I started taking French, I just knew this as the name of Avril Lavigne, which it actually makes sense because it is a name in French in France because she's Canadian, so that's where her name comes from. But it just means April, so I guess that can be an English name too. People in America can be called April, May, June, any of the months. So in honor of April 1st. And speaking of April 1st, today is April Fool's Day, and I saw this cool video. It's not French, but it like kind of touches on different international kind of traditions that people do around the world for April Fool's Day. And I was also curious on how April Fool's Day really started and the history behind it. So this video kind of gives a nice little history of it.
April Fool's Day, or All Fool's Day, is the one day of the year when you are allowed to mercilessly prank your friends, family, and coworkers. How exactly did this day come about? We don't actually know for sure what started the celebration of April Fool's Day. References can be found as early as the 1500s, but these accounts are infrequent and not very detailed. The most popular theory is that it began around 1582 in France during the reformation of the calendar. Before France adopted the Gregorian calendar, they celebrated New Year's for 8 days, beginning on March 25th and ending on April 1st. When they switched calendar systems, the 8th day moved from April 1st to January 1st. Because they didn't have internet, phones, social media, and a mail system, a lot of people didn't hear about this change until years later. Those that did not hear about the change continued to celebrate New Year's in April. Others refused to celebrate it out of rebellion. Those that had been informed of the change and adjusted their calendars began to make fun of these fools who were uninformed or rebellious. This harassment evolved into a tradition of playing pranks on the first day of April and then spread to other countries. However, April Fool's Day was already established in England, which didn't switch calendar systems until 1752. Also, people were already engaging in pranks and lightheartedness around this time of year, long before the French switched their calendar systems, such as in the case of the ancient Roman festival of Hilaria. Modern celebrations of April Fool's Day have slightly different traditions depending on the country you are in, but they all have the similar theme of pranking or humiliating individuals. In France, they try to tape an image of a fish to your back without you noticing, and in Portugal, they throw flour at you. In England, you are only supposed to pull jokes until noon, and if you pull a joke after noon, you are called an April Fool. In the United States and Britain, even popular media outlets and companies have been known to get involved in the fun. In 1996, Taco Bell announced that it had purchased the Liberty Bell from the city of Philadelphia and was going to rename it the Taco Liberty Bell. In 1992, NPR claimed that Richard Nixon would be running again for president. British publication The Guardian famously pranked the public in 1977 when they said that a semicolon-shaped island in the Indian Ocean had been discovered. This hoax is credited for launching the trend of April Fool's Day pranks by British tabloids. So hopefully you now know a little more about the history of April Fool's Day, or at least what we think the history of it is. Now that we are at the end of this video,
it's so interesting that it's like such an unknown origin, but like it's celebrated around the world. But it does seem like there was some French influence about it, and with a whole calendar set up and everything, which I didn't even realize before this video that it had to do, or potentially had to do, with the way the calendar is set up. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I love when like companies do stuff like this. I think it's so funny when they do. I remember one year, I think it was IHOP, or they said they were gonna like change it to like a burger place or something like that. But yeah, I think it's funny when that happens. But besides that, I don't really do anything for April Fool's Day. I guess just stay on my toes because I can be gullible. But
April
they mentioned it in the video. So in France, it's not called April Fool's Day, it's called Davidson-Davie. And that literally translates to poisson is fish, and then April. So literally April fish. Very strange, I know. But it says, again, the origins of this are pretty unclear. I think most people think some people believe it is related to the end of Lent, a period where Catholics don't eat any meat. But then other people are saying that April was like a bad month for fishermen in France or something like that. I don't know, but it's fish. And so like in this picture, you'll see like chocolate in the shape of fish or like other pastries. I don't really know what other pastries you could do and put it in the form of fish. But that's just kind of what it revolves all around. And they mentioned this in the video as well, how kind of the trick that kids play is they have like a little paper cutout of a fish and they kind of put it behind someone's back, kind of like a kick me sign that we would, well, I would say we would do here, but I've never seen that done to anyone before. But yeah, that's just kind of their whole little trick. I think it's kind of turned into like a more friendly, playful thing than like a hateful thing. And like in elementary schools, today they would like have little coloring pages of fish, and that's kind of how they would celebrate it. So pretty interesting how it's totally different and fish related, but that's what it is. And then the other thing that's really interesting to me is that they were saying that way back in the day, they would kind of send postcards to each other for Poisson d'avril. And it's not like a making fun of each other or joking around. It's kind of like a wishing you well kind of thing. But again, it's centered around fish. So I saw these pictures here of old postcards, which I think they look pretty, but again, it's fish. So you see up here on this top right corner, it's a 1 ER, and that represents like first, premier, avril, so April 1st. And then this little sign here, it says like, become who you want to be, or like, become who you desire to be. And then it has a flying fish. Don't know the correlation, but you know. And then this one over here, again, it says premier avril. And then petit poisson, aéroplane porte mes meilleurs amitiés. And that means like little airplane fish brings like my best wishes or like my best friendships to you. So I went through this whole rabbit hole. There were so many just so many on Google Images, and those are just two of them. And again, they're just like very whimsical looking, old timey, but like fish. Which I think it's just so interesting. But not very, I assume not very common for today, but back in the day.
I wonder if the symbol of the fish is represented in all French-based locations. Like you say in France, they do the fish color drawings and try to stick them to your back. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, this is like Canada has the fish. You said you studied off the coast of somewhere that was a French. I mean, did they do that there too? Was there a lot of fish?
Good question. No, now that I'm looking back at it, I don't remember seeing like chocolate fish in the stores or anything like that. I did work in high school, so maybe like high schoolers kind of phased out of like little paper fish, but I do wonder if elementary school did. I didn't see any anyways. So that is a good point. I wonder if it's a French culture thing or just France itself. But I never saw it, or I don't know if this tradition is kind of phasing out, but if it is, that's still the name of it. Poisson d'avril, it's kind of April 1st, April Fools, and that's what it is. I do wonder. Then it makes me think of if there's other kind of traditions or cultural practices in France that don't translate to other French-speaking places. Yeah, cool. Let's go back to this. I think that's all I had for Poisson d'avril. Yes, okay. Any questions or comments besides that one before I move on to this part? Oh, good. All right, so I also had to talk about Pâques, which is Easter, since that's, you know, following right after April 1st. To greet someone for Easter, like we would say Happy Easter, we would say Joyeux Pâques. Let me see if I can type it. And this is also kind of the setup you would do for like happy birthday or Merry Christmas. That's kind of the greeting. Joyeux Fête, like joyous Easter. Joyeux Fête. And then I had this nice video. I think these reporters are living in France, but they're English speakers. And they give this nice whole long presentation of what France does for Easter, because it's a religious holiday. It's the same meaning around the world, but they kind of celebrate it with a little bit of differences. So I'll play that.
It's time now for French Connections, our weekly look at the intricacies of life here in France with Florence Villeneuve. Hi, Flo. Lots of focus on Easter celebrations. Easter, of course, celebrated in many parts of the world, but there are some very French particularities.
That's right. Like many other historically Catholic countries, France is a big fan of Easter. It's known as Pâques here, Pâques plural, and it's arguably the most important celebration for Christians, marking the resurrection of Jesus. Now, in France, it's a traditional gathering for families, whether they're religious or not, usually either on Easter Sunday or Easter Monday, which is a bank holiday here. And of course, as all things French, Pâques involves a meal, and there's a traditional meal that you eat in France. You can see it happening here. Essentially, it's lamb in some way, shape, or form, but there's one meal in particular. It's the gigot d'agneau, so the leg of lamb, and one way to prepare it is the gigot de 7 heures, so it's cooked for 7 hours, and it's traditionally eaten with flageolets, which are white beans, and it's definitely a French classic.
The meat is tender, tasty, delicious.
Easter lamb has been a family tradition for generations. It's important to pass it on. It's a quasi-religious tradition. Easter lamb and beans, topped with flavorful gravy. And that's how it's done.
That looks so delicious. All right. In addition to the lamb, of course, another integral part of Easter here in France, like in other parts of the world, is chocolate.
It's certainly not a French thing, but there are some particularities to Easter chocolate in France. Easter is actually the second biggest sales moment for chocolate, just after Christmas, not Valentine's Day. And people buy 15,000 tons of chocolate over a 3-day period at Easter. And a lot of people go for quantity over quality. 80% of French people buy their chocolate in a supermarket because it's a lot cheaper. In fact, people tend to spend about 20 euros on average.
I rarely buy big pieces. I have 2 little girls, so I buy all sorts of little trinkets so that they can hunt for them all over the place.
Now, of course, Easter is also a major selling period for more artisan chocolate makers, if you like.
Indeed, because remember that at the industrial level, chocolate made for Easter is made 1 year in advance. So some people want to go for better quality. And France being France, it's not just simple chocolate. There are some very French particularities. It's all about gastronomy and tradition, especially when it comes to the shapes that these chocolate pieces come in. They're chocolate eggs, of course, but they're also other signs of spring, like rabbits, chickens, lambs, fish, and bells. We'll get back to the bells in a minute. Now, what's really interesting, and you can see it happening here, chocolate makers really pour their heart and soul into their creations. They're the bells. And all excuses are good to buy these beautiful chocolate creations.
For a chocolate maker, Easter's the best period. You can really let your creativity go wild. We really have a fun time.
What makes us happy is to see the look of wonder on our clients' faces. When you see kids smiling at your creations, it means you've won. Wow, macaroon flowers!
I'm looking for quality chocolate, but also a work of art.
It has magnesium in it. It gives you energy. It's an antidepressant. It really works. You have to believe it.
Now, like in many other parts of the world, kids here in France go on egg hunts, if you like Easter egg hunts, a chasse aux œufs, like we call it here. But the egg deliverer isn't actually the traditional Easter bunny like it is in other parts of the world.
It isn't the Easter bunny, though there have been attempts to bring the Easter bunny to France. Traditionally, it's actually the cloche de Pâques, and this is our words du jour, the Easter bells. The Easter bells bring treats to France. What in the world is the story behind the Easter bells? Lots of people have been asking me here at France 24. actually, so on Good Friday, the Friday before Easter, all the church bells go to the Vatican. They grow wings and they fly to the Vatican to be blessed by the Pope. And so no church bells actually ring between Friday and Sunday when they ring to mark the resurrection of Jesus. Now, when they come back from Italy, on their way back, they bring these little treats. They bring souvenirs, I guess, for children who have been good, and so chocolate eggs. They quite literally fall from the sky, although apparently bells aren't always very good at hiding the eggs.
The bells have come. It's fun. They aren't very well hidden. You can see all the eggs.
That sounds like my daughter. All right. Now, of course, non-Catholics celebrate Easter for all of the secular fun with the chocolates and everything. But Easter is still very much a Christian holiday, much more than Christmas, even, you might say. And for many people, that's what it really is above all else.
Indeed. And there are some very public Easter celebrations in France. It's not uncommon on Good Friday, for instance, to see reenactments of the crucifixion, the way of the cross in public. For instance, we'll be able to see some images. These are actually from Corsica, I believe, where Easter is a big tradition. There also we'll be able to see some images of a reenactment of the way of the cross in front of the Sacré-Cœur in Montmartre. Here they are. And I've seen it happen in front of the Eiffel Tower as well. And why not? Except for remember that France is a secular country. And that means that in theory, by law, religious ceremonies are banned from public space. And recently, for instance, there have been examples of Muslims being banned from praying in the street. And what's interesting is if you ask French people, some of them say that, you know, just like for nativity scenes, they say that Easter it's a traditional thing. It's not necessarily a Catholic thing. But it does beg the question because Easter Monday is a public holiday here in France. And it's not the only one. If we take a look at the 11 bank holidays that there are in France, you can see that 6 are traditionally Christian celebrations. So that goes for Christmas, of course, but the, Ascension, Whit Monday, etc. 6 of these 11 are traditionally Catholic celebrations. It's an example of France's somewhat ambiguous relationship with religion. Some say that there's a double standard and Catholics get away with things that other religions don't. We'll have to explore that, of course, in another episode of French Connection.
We certainly will, because it is a very thorny issue here in France. Thanks so much for that, Florence Villeminot. Don't forget, if you want to ask Flo any other questions about other things you're curious about here in France, you can send her a tweet at Flo.
So I don't know if you recognize, this was one of the many French monuments we talked about, the Sacré-Cœur, kind of the one that has that dome shape up at the top, very well packed, lots of stairs to climb up. So yeah, that's there. If I can get to it, there we go. Yeah, and it's interesting how they were talking about how religion is in France. It's definitely a separation of church and state practice there more so than it is here. I remember when I was teaching over there, I wasn't allowed to wear like a necklace with a cross on it or like kind of convert students or anything, which people don't do here, but it's definitely, you kind of keep that at home, or you can't practice it in public, as they were saying. So yeah, the idea of like religious holidays.
Were you allowed to have, like, if people had Catholic background, were you allowed to have like a rosary?
I think, yeah. Well, students could do that. Students can wear that, whatever. I think in terms of like, if you're teaching, if you're like working in the like system and like the government system, then I don't think you could.
So it was just directed towards staff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I had also heard before that the bells were a Catholic Church reference to Easter.
Yeah.
But another thing, I'm just watching this. It's interesting that they celebrate Easter Monday as their holiday because we're taking tomorrow as our holiday. Mm-hmm. So here we represent Easter on Friday for Good Friday, but they recognize Monday. I think it's kind of interesting that they do that.
Yeah, I agree. I always see how like in my calendar it'll say like Easter Monday, but like nothing's closed. Everyone goes to school, everyone goes to work. So it's not like a holiday here, which is interesting, for sure. And let's see, what was another point I have to make? The whole point of I didn't want to mention all the chocolate, like delicacies and stuff like that. That's very much like a gourmet thing. and a very expensive thing. It's not like every family is gonna get one of these chocolate ones. Like they were saying, most people kind of just go to the supermarket and get their chocolate.
Right. And like I said, at the supermarket, you know, the chocolate that they even here, I mean, chocolates you get at the supermarket here for Easter has been made so far in advance because they have to make so much stuff. But what people really don't realize is every holiday food product is done like this. Turkeys. I mean, if you think of it, turkeys, how many turkeys do people buy for Thanksgiving, and how many do they have to prepare in advance to make sure that they meet, you know, the demand?
Mm-hmm. So true. And like, I guess just on the point of Thanksgiving, it's like even like the ham, all like the vegetables and the stuffing, like all of that all need lots of preparation. I think she was saying like the chocolate's prepared like a year in advance or something like that, which I can believe because looking at them, I don't know how long it would take to actually make it for sure. Let's see. Then they're talking about the meals, kind of the lamb. And then, yes, here. Well, actually, let me get into it in the next video. Good old Geraldine. She kind of talks about it. It was kind of mentioned in the video before, but she gives a little bit more vocabulary.
Who delivers the Easter eggs to children in France then?
C'est pas moi.
If it's not him, who is it? Is it la girafe? Or is it le lama? Or maybe it is l'ours. Who is it? This is what we're going to see in today's lesson. I'm Geraldine and I'm happy to help you get better at speaking and understanding Easter French today. Today it is Easter in France. We call this Pâques. P-A-Q-U-E-S. Don't forget un accent circonflexe sur le A and the S at the end, because if you remove the S, it makes for the Jewish Pesach. Families gather together to eat l'agneau pascal. L'agneau pascal. L'agneau is the son of le mouton. It is the Easter lamb. And like your children when they were little, or maybe your grandchildren now, children love to go on une chasse aux œufs. We say la chasse aux œufs. La chasse is the hunt, and un œuf is this. Well, actually that's un œuf. That's not what we want for Easter. This is what we want. It is un œuf en chocolat. Un œuf en chocolat. And it looks delicious. Les œufs en chocolat are hidden everywhere. And here in Grenoble, there's even une chasse aux œufs, usually organized in the mountain for the children of the city by the mayor of Grenoble. Who delivers the Easter eggs then? Because we saw that. It's not le lapin.
Oh.
But is it la girafe? No.
Oh.
It's not l'ours either. And it's not le lama. Oh, the lapin fell down. Oh. No, actually it is les cloches de Pâques. Les cloches are the bells and they come from Rome because the Christians celebrate the resurrection of Jesus during this time. So the bells come all the way from Rome to their own city in France in order to give eggs to the children. So there is no Easter rabbit in France. Do you know who else doesn't work in France? The tooth fairy. So if you want to find out who gets the teeth of the children in France, check out this video because I will give you the answer.
I actually don't know the answer to that one, who's their version of the tooth fairy. But yeah, I think it's very interesting how it's like the Easter bunny is totally unrelated over there, but it is one of those like Easter symbols, like the bunny, eggs, and anything flower related are all like kind of Easter themes, but more so specifically the bells in France. But yeah, growing up, I never really was taught like the Easter bunny was real. It was just kind of like a theme during Easter we all recognize in my family, but yeah. I think.
Who delivers?
Okay. Did you grow up thinking the Easter Bunny was like a real bunny that actually gave out chocolate and hid eggs around and everything like that?
At a really young age, yeah, but I'm matured fast, so it didn't take long to figure out the whole Santa Claus, Easter Bunny, all that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think once one is shattered, it kind of just all falls. But yeah. So I was kind of excited to talk about April Fool's, Davidson-Davie, and Easter because there's a lot of differences in France, and like the past holidays, there's nothing too different, like Valentine's Day and New Year's and stuff like that. And so that's all I have for that. This next part is totally unrelated. It's more of like a fun grammar thing. So I wanted to talk about faux amis. So faux, we've mentioned this a couple of times, means false or fake. And then ami means friend. So it literally means fake friends. And what it is, okay, here we go. It's it happens in any language. So basically it's like, in this video we'll talk about it. It's basically if there's a word in English and a word in French that's spelled the same, but they have two totally different meanings. And it kind of overlaps in different languages too. And it's all called like false friends or fake friends. But yeah, I think they're very interesting, and it can be dangerous if you use it in the wrong context. So here we go.
Have you ever been in a situation where you've heard a word and it means something completely different to you? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And we'll be looking at words that look or sound similar in two different languages, but have completely different meanings.
Ooh, dick. Was machst du denn?
Nachdenken.
Worüber?
Ich brauche ein Gift für einen Freund.
Ein Gift.
What? Oh, I'm so sorry. There was a problem with the train. I didn't mean to get there so late, Ashley. I'm really sorry. Really? Retard? A date? I'm going on a date! I'm going on a date!
Du mit Dirne, du mit Fass.
Fass.
Hi.
Ah, 見つからない。
何が？
さ、日本語でわからないけど。
じゃあ、英語で言ってみて。
私のチンチンがなくなっちゃった。
チンチンがなくなっちゃった。
笑わないでください。大事なチンチンだよ。 Merci.
Ça va?
Ouais, ça va. Et toi?
Ça va, oui, oui.
Okay, come on in.
Oh, Eric, could you please bring me some preservative?
Des préservatifs?
Oui, preservative.
Okay. Préservatif?
Annie? You want some ice?
Yeah, sure.
So, Petra, what do you think we should have for dinner tonight?
La vache?
But I'm a vegetarian. Were you surprised to see how big a difference there can be for one single word which sounds very similar in two different languages? If you've had similar experiences, please comment below with your examples. So, until our next video, tomatoes forking out.
So it's fun. I liked this little skit that they had. It was cute. And shows just kind of how it alternates between like any languages for sure. I do need to ask Kaylin if there's any he can think of between English and Irish. If there's anything bad between those. But there's a couple of French ones I wanted to stop at. Let's see. This one. I think this one's a good one. This one's definitely a thing. It's I always feel uncomfortable if I'm saying this in French, but it's just that's how it's seen. If you're saying like, oh, I'm running late, this is the word you would say, je suis en retard. Like that's it. Or like if the bus is late or I turned in my homework late, that's just the common word you would use, but definitely not the same here. And then let's see if there's another one. Oh yeah, this date one.
Have you ever?
Yes, this I can see how this one's confusing, even learning French. Like a date or a date, day of the month or the year. That's all it means. Because I think we talked about this maybe in Valentine's Day, how like a date, our version of a date can be used as like a rendezvous. That's how kind of you would use a date as. And then there's one more French one that they used. Okay, well, I'll get to this one in a little bit, but this one's very much very common, and I think we would think of preservatives like you put in processed food, or like preservative jam, or like jams or spreads or something like that. And yeah, it's a little skit. There is a lot in French, between English and French. I did want to kind of just run through a good amount of them because I think they're so funny to learn. So main or main, that means like your hand. So that's a pretty innocent translation. Nothing bad could go wrong there, I think. At, it looks like hate to us, but it actually means like I'm looking forward to, or like I really want to, like j'ai hâte de something, like I'm really looking forward to the weekend or something, but it's not hate. Next one, lit, or a nid, that just means a bed. That's your bed. And then we talked about this one, préservatif, is just a condom in French, and not like a jam or anything like that. And this one is very confusing. I still get it confused because we see, like a crayon, like a Crayola crayon that's colorful. This means like pencil. So yeah, very confusing to me. Crayon. Même, or I guess meme, it just means the same, or like I'm in the same class, même classe. That's how you use that one. This is one of the ones that's very common, but also very bad if you use it incorrectly. So if you're learning about, feelings and adjectives, when you learn French, you're like, oh, I'm really excited for the weekend. But you should never say this, because if you say this, it means that you are aroused. I'm trying to find kind of more appropriate words to say this because I am in the office. But it's like, you're aroused. So every time like any French learning students, they're like, oh, je suis excitée. I always make sure that they never say that if they ever go abroad or something like that, because that would be bad. So there's that one. Okay, and then I have another video here. I think if I'm remembering this video correctly, it kind of runs through it pretty fast. And again, it kind of goes through different fake friends or false friends between different languages.
Ma means horse, lu means deer.
Vacaってなんて説明するの？頭が悪い.
Una vaca es un animal que da leche.
파이팅은 한국에서는 이렇게 cheer up, like it's cheer up 이거처럼 쓰이고 있어요.
Fighting, like hitting people.
Ok, burro è un alimento, lo spalmi sul pane al mattino, è fatto di latte.
Un burro es un animal como un caballo.
大丈夫即係男子漢，一個真男人。
大丈夫。全然やれるみたいな。Exits. It means leaving.
Éxito, tener éxito es como ser popular, que te salgan bien las cosas.
Bog это Господь.
So bog is toilet, I guess, or a swamp.
Gift ist eine Chemikalie, die entweder krank macht oder sogar tötet. A gift is a present, something that you give to a friend or a loved one.
Okay. Arbeit ist, wenn man körperlich oder mental oder wenn man physisch aktiv ist.
自由に時間を決めて働き。
Preservative. You put it in food so it lasts longer.
Prezervatif hamile kalmamak için kullanılır.
बनाना मीन्स लाइक इसका मतलब ये है कि हम लोग क्या बनाते हैं, क्या खाते हैं. तो जैसे वी आर कुकिंग, सो वी हैव टू मेक अ बनाना.
Anyways, that video I needed to watch that video like 2 or 3 times because it went really fast and it was switching between so many different languages. But again, I kind of did a couple of the same ones, like gift is poison in German. What was the one I wanted to start on? Oh, how the French one, but I think she was speaking Arabic maybe? That looks like the flag of Turkey, which I thought that was interesting because I don't think they speak French in Turkey, but it's the same word. Let me hear what she was speaking.
Prezervatif hamile kalmamak için kullanılır.
Well, I guess she was speaking Turkish if that is Turkey, but yeah, I think that's interesting how sometimes it overlaps there. And then I have a couple more words. I'm just running you through a bunch of vocab, but I think it just shows that there's so many. Chat. Un chat is a cat. So kind of confusing. Chat or un chat is a cat in French. Bras is your arm. So totally different. So the English one, that's your arm. Another body part, dent is your teeth. I guess I think of this as like dentures. So that's an easy one for me to remember. Dent. This one is kind of like the one that looked like hate at. I guess envie or like envious. It just means that you're looking forward to it. Like j'envie de, I'm looking forward to the weekend or something like that. Okay. This one is another very confusing one because it's raisin, but it means a grape in French. If you wanted to say our version of a raisin, you would say a dried grape. Raisin sec. Yeah. And then this might be the last one. To command, I think to us it's more of like assertive, like I'm commanding you to do something. But in French, it's like ordering on the menu. Like I would like to order my drink, or like what would you like to order? That's how you would use it, commande. But yes, I think that's the last one. Yeah. So that's kind of all I had today, kind of all over the place, but I personally think these are pretty interesting. And then for Easter and April Fools. But any thoughts or questions? Sure.
Just watching it was kind of interesting that they used the word bog, B-O-G, and my last name is actually Boger, so it's B-O-G-E-R, and it's German based from Boger as in B-O-G-A-R. But it's funny, like my family with the last name Boger are the ones who actually live in Louisiana on the swamp. Which the one guy says that that would either mean swamp or or nasty water or whatever. It's kind of funny to see the interesting connection there.
Yeah, I do wonder if that's how that came to be way back in the day. That is a cool connection between the two. I don't even know where my last name came from, because my parents are from the Philippines, and that's not a Filipino last name at all. And a lot of people also have Spanish last names, and Cannon isn't exactly Spanish either. So don't really know where that came from. So I think the origins of names and words can be really interesting, kind of say a lot.
Cannon, the name Cannon actually is where the city of Kannapolis, where I was born, it's actually where they got their name from. The family of Cannon who opened Cannon's textile mills. They named the city after them, and that was their last name.
Well, was it spelled the same way too?
No, actually, when they put through, their name was spelled the same way. It was C-A-N, but when they put through for the name of the town to be listed in documents, it was misspelled with a K.
Yeah.
Instead of a C, so the town is actually spelled with a K instead of a C.
Wow, that's.
But
wow, not really honoring that family name, I guess, putting it with a K.
Which they've actually removed the mill. Like the person who bought the property that the mill covered has actually removed every. There was 5 different plants for the textile mill, and they've torn all of them down. And that's now where the North Carolina Research Campus is at. For I know RCCC has a location in their thing, but they do some kind of scientific research there.
That's cool. Wow. Well, that's some sort of connection I can make with my name then, so that's good.
Yeah, they were really big to the town of Kannapolis. So.
Okay, cool. I think it's interesting with your first and last name because it's one letter off, but you pronounce both of them differently. I feel like, I don't know if you get that a lot, or like people mispronounce your first or last name.
They mispronounce both a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, English language was very interesting. I've definitely seen a lot of those things where like English words are like one letter off, but it's pronounced completely different, like through and though, or trying to think of some other ones, but just stuff like that where it's totally different, but they're spelled very similarly. But yeah, so I guess we can end a little early today, and then next week, well, we only have a couple more language hours left, maybe like 4 for French and for Irish, just because I guess that's how many weeks are left. But yeah, well, if there's no more questions or comments, merci Roger for coming in, even though you're the only one. I hope that's okay with you.
I had a discussion with Miss Kerwin before class this morning about that, and she was like, "Yeah, it's kind of disappointing, but I'm glad that I know the one person that is going," because she said you had mentioned that you had one student that came to all your meetings, and I was like, "Well, it's either going to be me or this other girl," but last week she wasn't there, so I'm pretty sure that it's me. So.
Yes, yeah, we were in this international committee meeting, and the other Christina was in that meeting too, and I was saying how me and Kaylin have one faithful person going to language hours, because in the past these are probably one of our least attended events, but I think they're always pretty interesting. Before we would have Irish hour, then the French person did the French hour, then Arabic hour is really cool too. But yeah.
Do you actually teach at the college, or is this the only thing that you do?
No, I don't teach at the college. I just do whatever it takes for the International Center, and this is included with one of them. Because normally we would have two Kaylins. I'm pointing over here because his office is over here. Normally we would have two international teachers, but Kaylin was the only one who kind of pulled through and actually came in the fall. We went through 3 different French applicants who were supposed to come and kept saying they were going to come, but then changed their mind. And then when we find a new person, then they changed their mind. So thankfully, Suzanne found me as a backup, so we're able to have another language hour this year. But yeah. All right, well, I hope you have a good Easter. Enjoy your potential day off. I hope you have a day off tomorrow at least. And I guess we'll see you next week. And what was I going to say? I think next week is the cool study abroad fair. So if you're still interested in Ireland, that would be a good one to go to if you needed more information on it than you already do. But all right, merci, Roger, and thanks for coming. Bye.